What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. This past week was the calm before the storm that is WWDC and iOS 16, but even in that calm, we did receive iOS 15.6 Beta 2 and all of the corresponding updates along with that. So we're going to talk about that along with iOS 15.5 and other software-related news, and then after that, we're going to discuss whether or not Apple's mixed reality headset is coming at WWDC, the AirPods Pro 2, iPhone 14 delays, an extremely rare piece of Apple history that just went up for auction, and more. Alright, so as always, let's start off with the latest Apple software news. So like I mentioned in the intro, Apple did release iOS 15.6 Beta 2, but just like with Beta 1, it's pretty much a snooze fest. I mean, I'm using it here on my iPhone 13 Pro Max, but there's hardly anything changed in the software whatsoever, just some back-end code changes. The performance did get improved a little bit, but aside from that, there's hardly anything new and really any of these software updates that have come out in the past couple of weeks. Now, there's still no sign of iOS 15.5.1, which would be the latest public release if we did get that. We are still expecting it at some point to fix the nasty bug we talked about in last week's episode, where some users reported an issue with iMessage and FaceTime just completely getting disabled randomly with no way to turn it back on without a new SIM card. So I would expect a fix for that sometime soon as Apple can fix it. And then I did also want to mention the digital key feature, which is how you can unlock and start your car with your iPhone. That is coming to two more BMW models this year. So their 2023 X1 and the iX1, which is their new electric SUV, are getting support for this feature. And the cool thing about it is that it uses ultra wideband technology for precise location and better security. So of course, this feature will allow you to lock, unlock, and start your car with your iPhone or your Apple Watch. And this, of course, is similar to what we've been able to do on the Tesla for a few years now, but the Tesla does not use ultra wideband technology, so it will be slightly better on the BMW models. I think Hyundai has some models as well, and a few others are getting support for digital key, and hopefully it rolls out to everybody in the next couple of years. The tap to pay feature is also making progress, as Square has just announced early access to this feature for select users. So if you fill out the form, you could be selected to be able to get early access to tap to pay. And this feature, of course, will eliminate the need for that Square reader that I'm sure all of you guys have seen, and it's going to just allow you to tap iPhones to make payments. Now, you still need Square, like the Square application, because that's going to be the credit card processor, but it will eliminate the need of having that huge, Square reader and lugging that around with you all the time. So that's going to be huge for small businesses, food trucks, anybody who uses that. It's going to be a huge win to not have to carry that around and deal with the issues that the Square reader brings, because those things are very finicky. Also this week, Apple published a press release mentioning that the App Store prevented 1.6 million risky and untrustworthy apps from defrauding users of over $1.5 billion in 2021 alone. So just look at these numbers here. It's crazy how much fraudulent activity is attempted and stopped by Apple. I would love to see how these numbers compare to something like Android, because I know the fraud is pretty bad over there on the Google Play Store. So pretty interesting numbers here. And then just to give you guys an update on iOS 15.5, which is the current latest public release, everything's running fine so far. Really nothing has changed from last week to this week. Everything is still running perfectly fine. I still believe this is the best version of iOS 15 we've had yet, which is expected, but of course in previous years we've seen it get worse over time. So it's good to report that, performance, battery life, everything is running as expected and really better than expected so far. And then iOS 15.6 Beta 2, like I mentioned, it did see a nice improvement over Beta 1 in terms of performance, but the battery life is still the same as it was in Beta 1. And of course, there's hardly anything changed with 15.6 in general. It's really just back-end code changes. So not really too much to talk about with software this week, but that's because, like I mentioned, it is the calm before the storm. And that's because iOS 16 Beta 1 is getting released on Monday, June 6th. So that, of course, is when Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference kicks off. It's a week-long event, but we do usually get the first developer beta on the first day, after the first day is over with. So we should see that on Monday the 6th. I will be going live here on YouTube, showing you guys everything that gets announced at the event and also going over those iOS 16 features. And then of course we could see iOS 15.6 beta 3 next week as well, or we could wait the following week. It's really hard to tell, but of course I don't think many of you guys are going to be interested in that whatsoever, because again, if you're running a beta, you're probably going to be running iOS 16. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, we could see a 15.5.1 as soon as next week or the following week as well. I don't think it matters if iOS 16 beta gets released. We could still see the 15.5.1 get released as well if Apple does deem that necessary. And then the public release of iOS 15.6 should come out sometime later this month, probably the week of the 20th or the week of the 27th would be my guess. It depends on when the next beta gets released. If it's 2 weeks, then we may wait until the week of the 27th. If we get another beta next week, we could see the final release on the week of the 20th. We'll just have to wait and see on that. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. So let's start off with the highly anticipated mixed reality headset from Apple, which is the biggest question mark surrounding the Worldwide Developers Conference right now. So Ming-Chi Kuo recently said this: "It still takes some time before the Apple mixed reality headset enters mass production. So I don't think Apple will release it or the rumored Reality OS, which is the software, at WWDC this year. Apple's competitors worldwide can't wait to see the hardware spec and OS design. I'm sure that if Apple announces the headset and its OS at WWDC, competitors will immediately kick off copycat projects and happily copy Apple's excellent ideas and hit the store shelves before Apple launches in 2023. So it seems like this headset hasn't even hit mass production yet. So the chances of that being unveiled at this event are very slim. Mark Gurman does also believe that we're not going to see this headset at the event. Now, I do think that Apple could tease this headset or the software. I mean, I think there's already tons of references to it. We know it's coming, so I would not be surprised at all to see Apple tease it. I don't think they're going to actually fully announce and talk everything about this headset, but we could see a teaser for that. But I do agree with the leakers right now. It seems that a full-blown headset reveal is unlikely, at least not at this event. However, if we were to see new hardware at this event, it would likely be a new Mac. More specifically, a new MacBook Air. So this has been rumored for a while now, but it seems like Mark Gurman does think this is happening. He just recently said this: "The new MacBook Air has been planned to launch at WWDC. I think the only way it doesn't is if the China factory shutdowns created such a supply and release date gap that it wouldn't make sense to announce it on Monday." And that was in response to a tweet that he put out earlier saying that he doesn't think a ton of new colors are coming for the MacBook Air. He thinks it's just going to be maybe the space gray, silver, and a new shade of gold. So I think pretty much everything is lining up right now for a new MacBook Air to get released on Monday, or at least to get announced on Monday, maybe with a release coming either later that week or potentially in the future again if those shutdowns did cause delays. Now let's move on to a couple of other products that are launching later this year, starting with the AirPods Pro 2. So remember how multiple sources claimed that Apple would be cutting the stems of the AirPods Pros to give us a more Galaxy Bud earphone? Well, thankfully it looks like that is not going to be the case anymore. So Mac Rumors reports that the design for the second generation AirPods Pro will be very similar to the current ones, just with the added functionality like skin detection. We're going to also have speakers in the charging case for the Find My capabilities, and we're going to have lossless audio support and more. But the overall design language is going to be similar to the AirPods Pro, the original AirPod Pros. I would assume that's probably just going to be a slightly shorter stem. So I cannot wait for the new generation of AirPods Pro, but again, don't expect those until later in the year. More specifically, Q4 of 2022 is most likely when we can expect to see the new AirPods launch. And then as usual, we do have even more information about the upcoming iPhone 14. So according to TrendForce, all iPhone 14 models will have 6 gigabytes of RAM, but the type of RAM will be different for the Pro models. So the iPhone 14 and 14 Max will allegedly get 6 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, while the Pro and Pro Max models get 6 gigabytes of the more efficient DDR5 RAM. And this makes a lot of sense. So I think this is going to be the case to give users, another reason to go with the Pro model. Apple really likes to change really small internal things like they did this year with the 5-core GPU instead of the 4-core GPU. Just small things like that Apple likes to do to give more incentive to go pro. But when it comes to actually getting the iPhone 14 in hand, there might be some delays this year, at least according to multiple sources at the supply chain level. So we're hearing that the iPhone 14 Max specifically is behind schedule by a few weeks, while all other models are expected to be on time. However, Ming-Chi Kuo disagrees with both of these sources and said this: "My latest channel checks suggest that Apple has not changed the shipping plan for the iPhone 14 models since the Shanghai lockdown. iPhone 14 Max is running behind, but it's still under control currently, and suppliers can work overtime to catch up with the schedule. I believe iPhone 14's challenges will come from the demand side instead of the supply side." And Ross Young also chimed in a reply saying iPhone 14 Max panel shipments have always been behind. Not sure why. Perhaps they have modest volume targets for this one. So Kuo and Young are two of the more accurate sources, so I do trust their word more than other publications. So it seems like since the Max model is new, the regular Max, not the Pro Max, Apple does have high hopes for that, and maybe it just required more supply. And then finally, let's talk about how you can bid on one of the most rare pieces of Apple history. So this just recently went up for auction on eBay this week, and this is a fully functional Apple One computer. But not only is it a fully functional Apple One computer from 1976, but it's also signed by Steve Wozniak himself. And if you weren't aware, these things go for ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, a first batch Apple One sold for $460,000 last month, and then last November, one sold for over $500,000. And some have even sold for more than that, much more than that. So needless to say, this auction will most definitely pass 400K, and I bet it's going to go past 500,000 since it's signed and just functional. So I think that was pretty cool. So if you're wealthy and you want to own a piece of Apple history that could very well appreciate much more in the future, here's your chance. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the latest batch of Apple news from this past week, along with some additional info on iOS 15.5, 15.6 Beta 2, and of course, iOS 16, which we should see very, very soon on Monday. We will see it on Monday, and I will be showing you guys in my live stream. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe. I will be having a ton of iOS 16 coverage coming to your sub boxes very, very soon. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.